Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Mailbag. What is Mailbag? Well, I'm glad that you asked. See, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we take the second half of the show to take live comments and questions from our viewers. However, if you're one of the people who watches the show any of the other 22 hours during the day and you can't watch live to get in a live question, we have Mailbag, and you can simply send in a question or comment for Mailbag, a show we do about 3 times a week, by simply going down to the description of this video and you'll see a tip link. Click on that there or enter it in manually at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question read on Mailbag if we deem your comment or question to be appropriate to be read on the show. And of course, you'll be supporting our channel at the same time. And all of us involved with the channel, thank you guys so very much for your support. And I'm not alone here today. I got Robert Meyer Burnett doing Mailbag with me. Robert, how you doing?
John, it's always a pleasure to hear from our viewers. I love doing the mailbag.
And that's what we're going to do right now. So let's not waste any time and get right to it. We're going to start off here with Russell Amador, who writes, "Hey, John, big weekend of releases from Master to Deep Water to the new horror film X by A24, who rarely misses. Although films tend to be a bit more on the odd side, will you be tuning into any?" So I did go to watch X last night, and I walked out after about 45 minutes to an hour just because I found it insufferably boring. Then I read that it's got like a 95, 96 critic review, a 70+% audience review. And so I'm thinking I might have to go back and give the second half a shot. But I just remember, Rob, thinking this first hour has been so boring.
Even with the filthy?
Even though they had some pretty good filthy in it, but even with the filthy, the first hour was so boring. I thought this would have to be the greatest film of all time for the next hour to redeem this movie, but I don't know, I'll have to give it a shot. Master, though, that's got Regina Hall, and I am a big Regina Hall fan. You know this. So I have not seen it, but I do plan on it, and I was interested in Deep Water just because it's got my boy Ben Affleck in it, but I haven't been hearing great things about it. I don't know, which of these three, Rob, have you most interested?
Look, obviously Ty West, I'm a fan of Ty West. I like movies like House of the Devil. So I want to see X. But, if it's slow, I got to watch it. Master, I want to see. It looks interesting. It looks right up my alley, certainly. But I haven't talked to anybody who has seen it. Now, John, when it comes to Deep Water, very disappointed to hear what I've been hearing about it. Not only do I love Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas, by the way, I do have a 6-scale Ana de Armas figure from Blade Runner 2049. Ooh. Just want to say, don't worry, I don't do anything untoward with it. It's standing on my shelf behind me. But Deep Water is the return of Adrian Lyne after 20 years to the erotic thriller ground he knows so well from movies like Fatal Attraction and Indecent Proposal. I'm a big fan of his. I love Jacob's Ladder. I was really looking forward to this. It's based on a Patricia Highsmith novel, the same author who wrote The Talented Mr. Ripley and Ripley's Game. And I couldn't have been more excited. But then it was going to come out theatrically, and then it got moved over to Hulu, John. And I haven't heard the best of things about it.
Yeah,
so
I will probably check it out at some point.
I'm going to watch it, but I'm kind of crushed, dude.
All right,
crushed.
Next up, we've got Nathan Hoffman, who writes, "Hey, John and crew. Growing up, I loved watching Gene Kelly and all of his movies. I wanted to get your thoughts on him, and if you have any favorite movies that he's in. Mine will probably always be Singing in the Rain. Shocking, I know. Thanks so much." Well, I mean, yes, Singing in the Rain, but the reason that's a stereotypical thing to say is because it's his most celebrated movie.
And it's one of the best musicals ever made.
And it's one of the best musicals ever made. Now, a lot of people don't know, there's a show, I can't remember if it's on Apple or Hulu. I think it's Apple. There's a show called Brigadoon with Keegan-Michael Key. Well, that was actually a Gene Kelly movie about this city that only appears one day a year, right? Yeah. Really like that. But speaking of great musicals with Gene Kelly, Anchor's Away.
Oh, good one.
If correct me, you would know better than me. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the only movie Gene Kelly ever won an Academy Award for. Was Anchor's Away.
Oh, that sounds familiar. I don't quote me on that.
Right. And then American in Paris.
American in Paris. I love American in Paris.
But the answer is Singing in the Rain. I mean, so I don't know. What about you?
I have to tell you, for me, it's Singing in the Rain too, because I'll tell you a funny story. I own Singing in the Rain on Laserdisc.
Of course you do. No doubt. I had no doubt.
In the 80s, but I'd never watched it. It was one of those things I bought because I thought I had to have it in my collection. It wasn't until I went to USC that they actually showed a print at one of the film classes I was in. So actually, the first time I saw it was in a movie theater, in the beautiful 500-seat Norris Theater on the USC campus, and I was enchanted. I'd only ever seen the reference to the song "Singing in the Rain" in A Clockwork Orange, but I didn't know "Singing in the Rain" was about the beginnings of sound in Hollywood. I didn't know it was about the transition from silent movies to sound movies. I had no idea it was about that. And once when I started watching it, I'm like, this is absolutely delightful. What's the matter with my voice? I love that movie. It's so good.
All right, next up. Hey guys, we want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of this video, Athletic Greens. Now, I started taking Athletic Greens because I don't eat enough vegetables, and I was looking for a way to make up for that deficit in my diet of those vitamins and minerals that I really need in my system, and thank goodness I found Athletic Greens, and I literally take it every morning. You see, with one scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole foods, source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, all the things. And my wife got onto it, and now she absolutely loves it. You know, tons of people take some kind of multivitamin, and it's important to choose one with high-quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb, like Athletic Greens. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with a convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season. It's just one scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Campea. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Campea to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Senpaigar Rights. Not sure if I'm in the minority on this, but whenever they get around to making new Star Wars movies again, I really wish they would put the opening crawl back into every film going forward. Its absence doesn't make a movie good or bad, but I have missed it. Dude, you are in the pulpit preaching to the choir. Look, I understand what the rationale was. The rationale was, well, hey, the opening crawl becomes the way that we denote the Star Wars episodic movies. And then when it's anything else, whether it's an anthology movie or anything else, a Star Wars story, we don't have it there. And I get that. But for years, the opening crawl was our Pavlov's bell that told us, our minds, our hearts, we're in for a Star Wars movie. And for years, Rob, comic books would even open with the opening crawl.
Thank you.
Right? Like
yes,
the comics
sir.
would even have the video games have the opening crawl. I mean, so again, I understand what the rationale was, but that made no sense. Star Wars is Star Wars. It's that universe, it's that galaxy far away. And it is, again, that dinner bell, or my example, the Pavlov's bell, that lets us know and just kind of sets our spirits that we're home. We're in a Star Wars movie. Here we go. So I completely agree. I think they need to bring it back. What do you think?
100%. Every Star Wars movie should open with a crawl, just like in the special edition in 1997. They should go back and put a crawl in the front of Rogue One. They should go back and put a crawl in the front of Solo. Come on, man, do it.
Absolutely agree. All right, next up, we've got Dr. Nova. And Dr. Nova writes, I'm reading Dune, and my God, is it great. I've been looking for something to obsess over. I love this book so much, and it has lore I am just able to dive into. P.S. Tell Anne the Audible edition of Dune has great presentation of the story. Yeah, I actually recommended to Anne that she pick up the audio edition, but she really does. She's got like the neck lamp, like the neck like things. She likes to lay in bed with an actual physical book in her hands. Like I still read my books.
Woman after my own heart.
I read my books on the Audible app now, like on my tablet and on my, well, it used to be on my Android tablet. Now it's on my iPad. But she still likes physical books, and she has been loving it. Rob, I know you've been an appreciator of this.
Dude,
for a long
you know,
time.
the first 6 Dune books, the ones that are actually written by Frank Herbert, Dune, Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune, and Chapter House Dune, are all worth reading. Read them all 6.
All right, next up, we've got Mark W. who writes, Hey, John and crew. With Matt Reeves making his own Batverse separate from the DCU, should Warner Brothers do the same with other DC heroes like Superman, Wonder Woman, and Flash? The director for each would have complete creative control as well. Thoughts? Well, first, let's be very clear about something. Matt Reeves never had full creative control. Now, he mentioned in an interview once that not once did Warner Brothers ever say no to something he wanted to do. But I want to make note. What that means is he still had to go to them, run the different elements by them, to which they had to give their okay. The reason they did not say no was because they liked everything he was bringing to them. But still, I see what you're saying. Put it all under one person, let them be the guiding creative force of that cinematic universe, free from the restraints of being tied to a shared cinematic universe. I get that. To a degree, it sounds kind of like they're exploring that because they've already done it with Joker, now Batman, and Rob, this Superman project. Now, who knows whether it's still happening, the J.J. Abrams one. Clearly, it's not connected to the DCU. It would probably also be its own standalone thing. But I would say this. Whenever I lament and say that I want to see some standalone individual stories again, what I emphasize is it doesn't have to be all shared cinematic universe. And it doesn't have to be all standalone. You can do both and. And I don't want to see DC start to swing their pendulum too much either way. Like, I don't want them to go, oh, look, we had big success with Joker and Batman. Let's make everything standalone now, right? That's what Warner Brothers 6 years ago would have done. So I would like to see them maintain, the odd standalone thing, the odd standalone story, things like that. But also makes you still give attention to your shared cinematic universe. I don't know, Rob, how do you think they should approach it?
Dude, I think you could have both. And if somebody said to me, Rob, you have 5 minutes to come up with an idea for a Superman movie, I would take the graphic novel of Superman for All Seasons and just call the movie Superman for All Seasons. And you'd start the movie and you'd tell each one of those 4 stories, and a card would just say spring. And you'd do that story in fall, winter, summer, and do that and make it a standalone Superman movie that delves into what it means. What does a Superman character mean through 4 beautiful stories? Everybody would get it. I'd make a mint.
All right. Next up, the Sock writes, I think it's good Aquaman 2 moved. People would have been comparing it to James Cameron's Aquaman. Sorry, Momoa, but you don't hold a candle to Vincent Chase. Of course. Okay. That's a little bit of an inside joke for people who know Entourage. So in Entourage, Vinny, the main character of the show, for a number of seasons, his big project that he, the movie star, was working on was his own Aquaman movie that was written by, in the Entourage verse, I can't remember who was supposed to be written by then. Anyway, yeah, so it might have been a James Cameron.
Yeah, I mean, written and directed by?
Yeah, written and directed by James Cameron, so you're right.
By the way, John, I should point out that on this channel, we have on the Designing Hollywood podcast, Doug Ellen, the creator of Entourage, yes, with a great tell-all interview. And that's, by the way, if you're on the front page of our YouTube channel, you'll see one of our playlists is Designing Hollywood, and you will see that interview with Doug Ellen and several other great ones. And there's more coming.
You should check it out. We got more coming. Good call out to that one. All right. Next up, we got the Sock who writes, I want a Batman No Way Home, but with Pattinson, West, the 1930s Batman, Super Pets Batman, and the Lego Batman. Make it happen. Warner Brothers ain't getting any younger. Yeah, very little interest in that. Obviously, he's being facetious and funny about that. You know what's funny, though? I don't know why. Earlier today, I caught myself, because you remember in Family Guy, the mayor of Quahog was Adam West for as long as he was alive. He was the mayor.
Right.
And they always had some of the funniest moments in the show. But earlier today, and I have no idea why, this is totally true, Sock, I started humming in my head, Adam West, which is something Adam West does in Family Guy in one episode. Just randomly, I don't know why that tune was in my head. Now that you mentioned that, it's kind of funny. All right, next up. Holy Jeebus writes, part 1 of 2. Kiss, kiss, gangbang, John and crew. My friend of 12 years was living in the Ukraine with his wife and newborn baby and had to abandon his house and things. I imagine so. It's so horrible what happened to him. And I remember watching with him The Force Awakens on opening weekend and having a really good time. The situation is real Star Wars as the Empire Russia is invading the rebel forces of Ukraine. I am pretty sure he won't be able to look at a Star Wars movie the same way again after all this? Well, I mean, look, obviously we're not going to go into political issues here on the show. However, one of the most special things about art is we see it reflected in real life, right? And that's when art becomes all the more profound for us, in good things and in bad. And you're right. I mean, Star Wars becomes, every once in a while, something happens in the world where Star Wars becomes all that more relevant and profound on that level. And our thoughts and hearts go out, holy Jeebus, to your friend from the Ukraine who had to abandon his home, and everybody else who did as well. All right, next up, the Power of Shoes rights. Well, it's official. They're rebooting Face Off. However, they're gender swapping the leads. It will be starring Jennifer Aniston, Angelina Jolie, and Brad Pitt. That is obviously not true, but yeah, a little spicy there.
I would see that movie.
For the people who might forget, of course, Brad Pitt was married to Jennifer Aniston and then moved on to Angelina Jolie. It's, yeah, there we go. All right, thanks, Power of the Shoes. Half-Blood Baby Goliath writes, "Hey, John and crew, move over, baby Grogu, the cutest baby alien in the 28 known galaxies is now baby Goliath from Resident Evil, or Resident Alien. It's cute to snarf down an alien amphibian, but downright amazing to be able to strip the flesh from the bones of a trash panda." Well, I have not caught up on Resident Alien.
No, that must be season 2.
It is season 2. I started watching season 2, but I just haven't had time to keep up with it.
I love season 1.
Oh, God.
I haven't seen season 2 yet, but season 1 was hilarious.
The season 2 episode 1 was really good.
Okay. I love the show.
And what's really cool, you remember in season 1, in the restaurant, there's an octopus that he talks to?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this was true in season 1. I just don't know. But in season 2, that octopus is voiced by Nathan Fillion, once again giving a little bit of a Firefly reunion.
Right.
Because Andy Tudyk,
I think it was,
guest starred on an episode of The Rookie.
Right.
In The Rookie's first season. So it's really cool to see these two keep crossing paths there. All right. Next up. Anonymous 7050 writes, upcoming Lego set of Upcoming Lego set of a massive Sanctum Sanctorum will include Spider-Man and Iron Man figures, as well as 3 different Doctor Strange figures. Really hoping all the cameos don't detract from the plot. Any thoughts on fan service versus plot? Well, I mean, I don't know if that's yet another thing of a toy giving away something.
Yeah, I haven't even seen this yet.
I haven't seen that yet either. But as far as fan service versus plot, pure fan service is done when it's done alone. Good fan service is when it's done in service to the plot. See, having a bunch of fan service is not necessarily a bad thing at all.
Totally agree.
Fan service can be a good thing when it is tied in and in service to the story and the narrative. Fan service for the sake of fan service is a little eye-rolling. I'll give you a good example. Spider-Man No Way Home is an example of both to me, to be honest with you.
Okay.
For instance, the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire stuff, that was clearly completely in service to the story.
Yep.
That was a major part of the story and the narrative of this, and therefore, is it fan service? Yes, but it's fan service done the right way, and that gives it pop. However, and I think you and I disagree about this, but also in Spider-Man No Way Home, you had the Charlie Cox cameo. It was pointless. It did not serve the story. It did not, there was no reason why that needed to be him. Now look, I'm not going to lie. Of course, when we see Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock on screen, it's squee. Like, of course I smiled and well, of course I did. But that was as, who's the guy from the Food? Alton Brown? Is that the guy's name from Food Network? Anyway, as Alton Brown on the Food Network would always say, it's empty calories. It was a teaspoon of sugar that was just empty calories. Whereas the Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire one had narrative purpose. If you took Charlie Cox out of that movie, it doesn't change the movie. So I don't know. But what are your thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I can understand your point. I mean, I actually thought that they were going to go somewhere more with the idea that he needed legal representation because, whether he was deceiving people or what. I like the idea that Spider-Man needed a lawyer. That I like the idea that Matt Murdock is there to offer legal advice to superheroes. I thought that was cool. They needed one more scene with him to pay off something.
I agree.
You know, that
and to give a reason why it had to be him.
Right.
Why wasn't some random public defender or something
exactly
like that?
And I would love a moment, maybe Spider-Man at the end needed to speak with Matt Murdock, and maybe he went to Matt Murdock's office and then realized Matt Murdock wouldn't remember him either, you know, and maybe he needed to consult, like, how do I get my identity back? I don't have my IDs. I have no papers. Nobody remember, or what? It could have filled in the blanks or done something, and they didn't do that. And so it was, I loved it. It was welcome fan service, but as you point out, didn't really lead anywhere. It was empty calories.
All right, next up.
It could have been done, and they could have done one more little bit that would have
to show why is he here and how does that affect the story, like they did with Maguire and Garfield.
Yep.
All right, next up. Little Bernie KC writes, I suspect Netflix $3 password share is more about increasing the subscriber count. Oh, it's 1,000%. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's 1,000% that. The total subscribers since Q2 2020 has been relatively flat. Google Netflix new user numbers and click Statista link. Underlying assumption is that Netflix classifies these $3 accounts as new subscribers. $3 is reasonable and will increase over time. We all remember the $5 accounts back in the day, and now it's $15. No, it's 1,000% about new subscribers, because here's the thing. People are stealing Netflix. That's the thing. When you violate the terms of service and you start sharing your password to people outside of your household, you are literally stealing subscribers from Netflix. And that's why I think this is a good compromise. But Netflix just for a long time has just turned a blind eye to it. And like, again, I see a lot of entitled babies online. Everybody thinks we're entitled to everything for free. No, I'm entitled. I should be allowed to have this for nothing. No, you don't. And neither do I, for that matter. And that's something I have to deal with all the time. But this is 1,000% Netflix compromising and saying, look, you're stealing Netflix. So how about this? How about instead of the full thing, you just give us $3. You still get a profile. You still get your recommendations. You still get your playlists. You still get everything, but $3. And I think that is a good compromise, because right now they're getting nothing from those people stealing Netflix, and now they will get something. So it is 1,000%, Lil Bernie, that this is all about the memberships. Rob, anything to add to that?
No, other than the fact that these streaming services they're only going to get to a point where they're only going to have so many subscribers. There's only so many people on the planet that are subscribed to Netflix and the other streaming services. And that number will eventually top out. So that's something else they have to consider. They have to start living within their means.
All right, and there was actually a third part to that, where he wrote, with 75.22 million users, Q4 2021, even if half of those members are sharing with just one person, that is 37.61 million new accounts, assuming they classify these as new users, 112.83 million a month, 1.35 billion a year. Yeah.
Is that only in America?
I think that's probably only in America.
Yeah.
That's not worldwide. Worldwide, they have, I think it's 200 something
That's
million.
what I was going to say.
But so that 1 point something billion would probably be more like $2 something billion a year that Netflix is. $2 billion a year is the difference between having a money losing year and a money profitable year.
Oh, yeah. Or in the case of our lives, John, we'd be rich forever.
Well, it'd be life-changing money. It has to be life-changing money. Make no mistake.
See you later, YouTube.
All right. Next up, we got the ABK who writes, John and Rob, what's up? Good to have you here, ABK. Just saw the Batman for a third time. Nice. I still haven't seen it for my third time yet. Two things. Number one, we still have the 2022 clip showing the Flash and Aquaman. That's a shame. They should change that. And two, the Batmobile, and there is no part two. Sorry, ABK. It looks like you only got one went through there. Oh no, it went through down to the bottom. Okay, sorry about that. And two, the Batmobile, I realize sounds just as angry as Batman himself. Love the Dolby screen. And Rob, I get it. That Warner Brothers DC Pictures coming in 2022 spot it rocks. It sings. That's a great spot. But it's false. Now, you guys know what we're talking about. They put up that little spot before Batman of the montage of Batman, Black Adam, Aquaman, and the Flash. Aquaman 2 and the Flash. And it's all coming in 2022. But the problem is you've already announced that they're not coming in 2022. So you've got to pull those out now. Edit them. I know it's going to cost money. I know it's a pain in the ass. But you are giving false information to the audience right now and causing confusion.
Just drop in a new text card that says in 2022 and 2023. That's all you have to do. And swap it out.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it's going to take some money. I understand it's a pain in the ass. But you're causing confusion with audience members. It's got to be done. You got to change that up. Because to this day, we just had somebody this morning say they were at the Batman movie last night. Same false advertising 2022 card is right there. They got to change that up. All right. Next up, Donald Moore writes, "Hey, John and crew. What were your favorite movies that you got to see on the big screen when they came out? Mine were Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Road Warrior, and Excalibur. Thanks again, guys." Well, I mean, everybody knows what mine is. My earliest childhood memory, I didn't have a memory. I was only like 5. Star Wars. My mom taking me to see Star Wars. That's it.
I mean, I've seen so many movies on big screen. I couldn't tell you what my favorite was. Star Wars is one of them. I think my first favorite movie I ever saw on the big screen was Jaws.
Ooh.
I was 8.
I never did see that in the movie theater.
It was, and we weren't supposed to see it.
Of course not.
My parents were like, "You can't see it." And finally, for Jeff Swafford's birthday, my best friend at the time, we were able to be taken and we went and saw it in the theater.
Woo. Yeah, I never did see that on the big screen. All right, Garden Variety Vagabond writes, one of two. John, as to the Avengers leaders, Fury is the leader emeritus. Sort of yes, he's sort of yes and sort of no. Anyway, you did not talk about Wong and Banner. We did talk about Banner, and that's disqualified. Banner doesn't count. They and Captain Marvel are the leadership representation in Shang-Chi. I don't think that's what they were. I don't think that's what they were implying.
They were scientists. I mean, Banner's a scientist, and Captain Marvel knows about cosmic technology.
Yeah. So he goes on to say, between them, they cover science, magic, military, and cosmic knowledge. I mean, no, none of that was implying that this was the leadership of the Avengers. It was, hey, Wong couldn't find anything in the mystic texts. Okay, the most space knowledgeable person I know is Captain Marvel. Okay? Most sciencey person we know, now that Tony's not around, is Dr. Banner. Gave him a call. I don't believe at all the implication was leadership there. Do you think there was any of that there?
No, I don't. I think that they needed to consult with experts. That's what I took from that scene.
All right. By the way, there was a part 2 to that Garden Variety wrote. And he says, and isn't there a scene somewhere where Sam and Captain Marvel in a hangar getting ready to train new members? Or am I dreaming that? You're dreaming that. You're thinking of Black Widow and Captain America at the end of Ultron, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
And that was the first time when when they teased the Avengers Assemble line, because it ends with Cap looking at all the new members and saying Avengers, and then credits. And I remember, they didn't let us hear it until they gave us the Avengers Assemble. Then they gave us that later in Infinity, or Endgame, I should say, but then there was that. All right. Next up, Chloe Fanning writes, let's go back to high school, at least in the movies. Best high school movie. The Breakfast Club, that's it. I don't have to even have to read off the rest of them now. It's The Breakfast Club. Anyway, 3 O'Clock High, Summer School, or a personal favorite, License to Drive, or maybe one not listed here, maybe American Graffiti, Making High School Cool. Of course, that's a George Lucas film. I know, as soon as I said you were reading high school movie, it's Breakfast Club. I mean, look, there is another one that Baldwin, what's his first name? It's not one of the Baldwin brothers. And he was in Chuck. He was in the TV show Chuck. And he was in Independence Day. He's the military officer who shoots the alien. Something Baldwin. Adam Baldwin?
Yeah, Adam Baldwin.
Adam Baldwin.
Oh, My Bodyguard.
I full 20 points Hufflepuff for knowing exactly where I was going with that. I remember I was a child, but I remember my parents used to take us to the drive-in a lot. I just remember My Bodyguard being the bonus movie that was on one, and I got to watch that.
That is a great, and Chris Makepeace, I think, is the kid. That is a nice pull, dude. That's a
Well, you knew what I was talking about right
but
away.
I haven't thought about that movie in ages. That's a great movie.
What about you for favorite high school?
You know,
movie?
there's certainly one of my favorites that never gets enough credit is Secret Admirer with C. Thomas Howell, Lori
that's
Loughlin,
right.
and John Travolta's wife who passed away. But it's also got Fred Ward and Lee Taylor Young, and it's a mistaken identity kind of a thing with a love letter. And I love it. And I got to say, talk about John Hughes, I love Some Kind of Wonderful, which is Pretty in Pink with the right ending.
With the right ending.
It's so good.
All right, next up, we got Tamer Mohammed, who writes, "Hey, John and crew, big fan of the show. Thank you so much. Watch your content daily. Wanted to mention, if it hasn't been said already, I read that Sydney Sweeney has MMA training experience. Excited to see how that translates into her action scenes. I like this casting a lot." So for those of you who know what Tamer is talking about, from Euphoria, actress Sydney Sweeney has been cast to star alongside of Dakota Johnson in the upcoming Madam Web series. Now, I have no idea what her role is going to be. And, MMA training does not make somebody a better actor. But we already know she can act. So any other of those tools that they can bring to be able to deliver their own physicality is always a good thing in the director's toolbox. Because now the director knows they've got an extra tool that they can use if they want to. But yeah, I'm still very happy with this casting. Rob, what about you?
It sounds good to me. I mean, I have a friend that actually went to school with her at an acting school in Los Angeles.
Ooh.
And I'm happy for her success.
Very nice. All right. Next up, we got Tamer also writes in, "Just want to say thank you for Movie Club." Oh, thanks so much. Great work, John, Rob, and crew. Yeah, we are loving Movie Club. Like, I loved the idea of doing it. A long time ago, I used to do revisit reviews. I used to call them revisit reviews. But that didn't really capture what I wanted it to be. And Movie Club was like the perfect format. Like, we literally are, like, it's a book club. We get together to discuss the book we just read that week. And instead we're talking about our favorite movies the last 20, 25 years or so. And I have been having a ball doing it. I've been loving, as a matter of fact, it's been difficult keeping the episodes, because we wanted the episodes to come in at an hour, but we're having a very hard time keeping it to an hour and a half.
Yeah, I know.
Right. So we will try to tighten it up a bit, but I have been loving it. And, but thank you for mentioning that tomorrow.
And next week, John, one of my favorite movies of all time.
One of many people's all-time favorite movies, The Godfather, maybe the greatest film of all
For
time.
its actual 50th anniversary. We're going to be a couple days early, I think. I think we're going to do it on the 22nd. But the actual 50th anniversary is March 24th.
Yeah.
So we're getting it the exact week of its 50th anniversary.
That's going to be a good one. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Next up, an anonymous viewer writes, what would your instant reaction be to the hearing that Jackie Chan was going to be in Shang-Chi 2? That's just a personal want of mine. Well, I believe Destin, the director of Shang-Chi, I think he mentioned he's got Jackie Chan circled, that he wants, I think we talked about on the show that he really wants to get Jackie. He doesn't know what his story is yet, but he would love to have Jackie Chan there. Look, my first reaction would be, cool. If they've got something interesting for him to do. But yeah, my instant reaction would be absolutely cool. I don't know, Rob, what about you?
Jackie Chan or Chow Yun-Fat.
Oh, Chow Yun-Fat would be.
But Jackie Chan would be great. Tony Leung is one of my favorite Chinese actors. I was so happy they made him Shang-Chi's dad, but I would love to see there's so many great Chinese actors, like real legends that they could bring in. Bring them all in, that's all. Bring them all in. I'd be fine with that.
Get Donnie Yen in there.
Oh, man, come on.
Come on, Donnie Yen in a Shang-Chi movie. Come on.
Some kind of general.
Oh, yeah.
Some badass. Come on.
All right, next up. We got also from an anonymous viewer. I'm super interested into what the plot of Free Guy 2 could be. Me too. An idea I had was a group of hackers are running from open world game to open world game, stealing from players, and Guy and friends figure out who is behind the hacking / final fight face-off. Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
That's as good as any other.
Especially if they could go to different sandbox open realm games.
Yeah.
So that would be, Ryan Reynolds is like, where are we? What's this game called?
Azeroth. And the orcs come harding over.
That's what I'm talking. That could be kind of cool.
That could be fun. Look, but I will be honest. Look, story always comes first. But I admit, as a fan, that sometimes to me, there are movie franchises where I just want to go hang out with those characters again.
Yep.
And I will confess, while story is first, Free Guy's one of those where if I could just watch Guy and Buddy hanging out and talking and being funny for a couple of hours, and yeah, I'm in regardless of what the story is, to be honest with you. But that sounds as good of an idea for a story as any.
Agreed.
All right. Next up, we got Seth MacFarlane's Underrated writes, the too young casting of Dakota Johnson as Madam Web seems similar to Emma Stone as Cruella. Fair comparison? Well, no, because Cruella was supposed to be a younger, like earlier in her life. So the casting of Emma Stone in Cruella was actually perfect age casting for when that character was supposed to be. Anyway.
I like that movie, by the way.
Oh, I do too, very much.
I thought it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
It was very good.
And she was great in it.
Oh, she was fabulous. And what's the guy's name? He was in I, Tonya.
Yeah.
He was the doofus best friend in I, Tonya.
Yep.
And I'm forgetting his name.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
He just played the lead in that Clint Eastwood movie. And now I'm forgetting his name. Anyway, Hauser? Something Hauser, I think. Anyway. He was also very, very good in it, but that was actually perfect age casting. Anyway, getting back to the question here. It seems counterintuitive to create live adaptations if general age of characters isn't casted. I completely disagree. And I completely disagree for a couple of reasons. First of all, no comic book movie today is a direct take from its comic book story, origin, founding, whatever. The original material is never the same thing. And we talked about this all the time. X-Men Days of Future Past was radically different than the comic story of X-Men Days of Future Past. Civil War is radically different than the comic book story of Civil War. So on and so forth. And liberties are always taking with these things. I say this all the time. And I know some people, grimace when I say it, but grimace away. It's true. The number one job of a filmmaker is not to make a movie as accurate to the source material as possible. The number one job of a filmmaker is to make the best movie possible. And when you're doing the translation from a printed page or an animation or a novel or whatever to the big screen, things that work on a page don't necessarily work on a screen. You got to change things up and you take some liberties and do an adaptation. That's been true of every comic book movie you've ever seen, other than maybe Sin City. Sin City was absolutely a direct take from the source material. 100% it was. But with Madam Web, who knows when they're telling this story of her? Like, Rob, this could be like Cruella, where this could be the very, very early days and younger days of Madam Web. Yep. Or they're just changing the character for the big screen because, frankly, Rob, there's comic book characters where, all the comic book nerds know them, but the general audience, I'd say half the comic book nerds don't know who Madam Web is.
I think it's a good, you have to adapt. And like we were talking about, someone pitched an idea, had a good take on it, and that's why the studio went with this.
At least that's what we're hoping is the case.
Well, yes.
So look, you make it the age that you think tells your best story. That's what you do. You're always saying story and characters first. And if your story and characters calls for this character to be this age at this time and whatever, and the take that they had, then that's what you go with and that's what you do. So I don't find it to be counterintuitive. And again, the Cruella example is not a good one because this was supposed to be about young Cruella. So it was actually very appropriately aged for that. All right. Thanks for writing that in, Seth. Okay. Next up, we got Marvel Misfit who writes, "Hey, John, talking about Doctor Strange cameos, I know Disney won't let you say anything about Corporal Campea from The Incredible Hulk being in the Multiverse of Madness, but any chance he might show up in the Thunderbolts or Secret Invasion?" All right. I will let the world know about this. I wasn't going to tell everybody this. My character's in the Illuminati. I was sworn to secrecy, but our community deserves to know that my character from The Incredible Hulk is going to be in the Illuminati. There you go. I'm the one.
Makes sense to me.
Yep, that's it. Big breaking news. Run the headlines. I'm in the Illuminati. Obviously not. All right, next up. Michael Gardino writes, "John and Rob, With the community sharing stories about hot toys recently, I wanted to share one of my own.
Ooh.
I just got my very first two for Christmas this past year, which I absolutely love. They are Marty McFly from the first Back to the Future and Amy Pond from DW. From DreamWorks?
From Doctor Who.
I don't watch Doctor Who.
Although the Amy Pond, technically that's a big chief figure. That's not a Hot Toys figure, but it's a high-end 6-scale figure, so we'll allow it.
Hot Toys doesn't have one of her?
They don't make that series. They don't have the license for Doctor Who, but Big Chief does, and they've done a lot of figures. And Big Chief is good. They've got the Doctor Who license. They've done a really good job with that license, and pretty good. But you can buy them through Sideshow.
So you'll have to tell me if this is the one. Let me see if I can bring it up on screen here.
See, they do a good job. Big Chief does a good job, don't they? It's pretty good.
Let's see here. Is this the Big Chief one? Is this the one you're referring to?
It looks like it. It looks like it.
Not a very good face sculpt.
Well, they're not as good. They're not as good as Hot Toys.
I mean, it's a nice figure, but to me, honestly, the value of a figure to me, the one that gets me going, my awe factor always is just all about the face sculpt.
I know.
And if it's this, I don't see this.
But that's why Hot Toys is the top of the food chain, because of their face sculpts. And the face sculpts are just getting better. You know, they just announced a Gilgamesh figure from Eternals. That face sculpt.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Ray showed that to me.
Insane.
It's so good.
So good.
Actually, you know what? Hold up. Let me see if I can bring up Hot Toys Gilgamesh. Let me see if I can find it. For those, just so you guys will know what we're talking about, I got to bring up an image of this. Because the face sculpt is like, you can't convince me that's not actually him. So let me get...
How crazy is that face sculpt?
Okay, here's the face sculpt we're talking about. You can't tell me that's not him! What? Look at that face sculpt. Look at the hair.
How crazy is that? And they just get better. They get better and better and better and better.
I mean, that is psychotic how good that face sculpt is.
Yep.
And to me, that's 100%.
And what they've figured out how to do is the stubble, the shading on the face.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
That's the part where they really start to get into the uncanny valley.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. And by the way, that was just announced this week. So that is the latest Hot Toys figure that was announced. And wow.
All right. Next up, we got Ethan Holgate, who writes, "Hey, John and Rob, really enjoying Movie Club lately. Thank you so much, dude. We love doing Movie Club. A lot of fun. Out of curiosity, would you have interest in doing Last Action Hero? No. I feel it's a much beloved movie and was so ahead of its time in terms of its meta piss take. I think that would be a fun one to do. Nah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of movies we really like. But, you know, if we're going to do Movie Club, part of it is understanding that it's a movie that most people have watched.
Right.
And the reality is, I think today, I don't know that the audience is there for that. And I'll be quite honest with you. I don't think it's all that great.
It's a bit of a mess.
I mean, I had fun with the movie. I did. But so it's rule number one, it's got to be a movie that we love in this room. It's got to be a movie that we love. So right there, it kind of gets disqualified. Because while I like it, I don't think those of us in the room love it. Secondly, it's got to be one that we think most people have watched.
Yeah. And that movie's almost 30 years old now.
Yeah. And even back in the day, it wasn't all that popular.
No, it was very expensive and didn't do nearly as well as they would have hoped.
I mean, it's popular enough that you mention it, people know what we're talking about, right? But it wasn't all that popular. So unfortunately, while I really appreciate your appreciation for the movie, Ethan, it probably won't be one that we do on Movie Club. But thanks for bringing it up, man. We love getting these suggestions. All right, next up. Anonymous Viewer writes, "Over under 1%, Simon from Love, Simon." By the way, that's a really good movie.
I love Simon.
I think it's really good. Will be in Multiverse of Madness. LOL, all joking aside, the final season of Love, Victor, is my most anticipated release in June. You know, the funny thing is, first of all, I didn't think Love, why did I just freeze on the name? Simon. I didn't think Love, Simon looked all that particularly interesting.
Right.
And I watched, I'm like, damn, this is sweet. This is a really nice little movie. I enjoyed it. But I never felt any desire to watch Love, Victor. So I haven't seen, now granted, I don't watch a ton of TV. granted. But I was never gone on board with Love, Victor. Have you watched that one at all?
No, I have not.
Yeah, so I don't know anything about that one, unfortunately. All right. Thanks for bringing that up, Anonymous. Next up, we've got I Love Documentaries Rights. Well, I've got a documentary you should check out. It's called Movie Trailers, A Love Story. Go check it out on Amazon today. Hey, John and crew. Love the show. Thank you so much. I heard you guys discussing about behind-the-scenes documentaries, and I always thought that these documentaries were made by the crew that is making the movie. Now I'm curious as to how these are made. Thoughts? Yes. Well, look, listen, man. Don't feel bad about that. I think everybody assumes that. But the crews making the movie are a little busy making the movie. But no, what they actually do is they actually hire an entire crew, a company, if you will, to be there on set, to be dedicated to gathering all the behind the scenes stuff, doing the interviews, whatever. Our friend Cliff does that. And Rob, that's what won you a Saturn Award too,
yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yeah. I've worked on many different kinds of movies, but like I worked on Lord of the Rings, for instance. We had a team of 30 people that were working.
30 people?
Yeah, 30 people for a year on each one of those movies. Now, we weren't hired while the movies were being shot. We inherited a lot of on-set footage that was shot by all kinds of different people. But then what we had to do was we then had to go in. On Fellowship, they were finishing up Two Towers, and on Two Towers, they were finishing up Return of the King. So we had to interview. We did hundreds, if not thousands of hours of interviews with the cast and crew. And it took us a year. You should have seen, there's 4 audio commentaries on those discs. Those audio commentaries took months to make. I mean, and it was our team. That's all we did was work on Lord of the Rings. 30 people for 3 years.
Unbelievable. All right. Next up, we've got Dixie Normus, who writes, no question, good sir, just carry on, my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Anyway, thank you, Dixie. Always appreciate that when somebody just wants to write in to say something encouraging. Thank you so much for that.
What do you think the over-under is? Do you think they'll use that in The Boys?
So this question's come up.
I know. The thing is, I like the idea. Do you like the idea, or does it break the fourth wall?
Okay, so just for those of you who don't know what we're talking about here, of course, I love the show Supernatural. The season finale, every year for 15 seasons, the season finale of Supernatural began there previously on, or The Road Till Now, with playing Carry On My Wayward Son. And they would do the previously on montage set to, and that's how they would do the season finale of every season. It's one of the greatest traditions in television. So one of the stars of Supernatural, Jensen Ackles, is going to be one of the stars of season 3 of The Boys. He's playing a character who's a Captain America knockoff called Soldier Boy. And somebody brought up the thought, what if in that show they play that song when he's coming out on stage somewhere, they play Carry On? And then somebody reminded me that Eric Kripke, the creator of Supernatural, is now the showrunner of The Boys. Okay. If this was anything other than The Boys, no, you can't do it. It's too, it's cringy at that point. It's too obvious. It's too, but The Boys, which is borderline fourth wall breaking show, I think you can get away with it.
I do too.
And at this point, Rob, you asked me if I think they should. I will honestly say I think it's a missed opportunity if they don't. I really, not that has to be predominant throughout but one time, sometime in the season, even if he's just sitting in a diner eating breakfast and that song's playing in the background, it's got to be there somewhere.
I think also because he's probably a guy out of time, like Captain America, coming into, what a great song to sort of his journey. I mean, it fits thematically. I hope they do it. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of people that are watching The Boys that never watched Supernatural, so they're not going to make that connection. But for the people that know, they know. I think it's a good idea.
All right. Next up, we've got Mitchell Keene, who writes, hey, John and crew. I feel like the emergence of the mutants should shake things up in the MCU a bit. I agree. Have it be an event where everybody's powers all kick in at the same time, causing absolute chaos and damage, and that's why the regular humans turn and hate on them. Okay, so this is kind of in line. I don't think we've talked about this, but this is kind of in line with one theory that I heard that isn't terribly bad, which is you mix a little bit of Inhuman mythology, which we both don't think Kevin Feige wants to go anywhere near Inhumans. But if you mix a little bit of Inhuman mythology with X-Men, and you say some major event happens, there is the smallest mutation in some people in the world, and then some global event happens that triggers that mutation into causing mutants. The downside of that, of course, is that you take away all the history of X-Men.
Yes.
And that is a big problem. So while I think there's merit there, Mitchell, you're getting rid of the heart and soul of what the story of X-Men is. So I have a problem with it, although that would be a really neat event to have happen. But Rob, there was a theory recently that both you and I really loved, where we went, "Oh my God, how did we not think of this earlier?"
It was Wanda Maximoff, the No More Mutants
where
theory.
the No More Mutants was actually said before, and we just don't know it.
We just don't know it,
Yeah.
and I love that.
I do too. I think that's great, and it would be kind of neat if in Doctor Strange 2, when we see Professor X, he says, "In my universe, I got out before she said that. It wiped out all of mutant kind, and she did it in your world." That never happened. No, you just forgot. You don't know because it never happened now. When she said that, it changed your history. It's such a great theory. I like that a lot. I hope they go with that. I mean, I'll be okay if they don't. I don't expect them to do it, but if they do, it would be pretty damn kick-ass. All right, next up. Zarapop writes, 1 of 2. Hey, John and crew. With all the talk of how to make various villains work in a sequel to the Batman, no one has mentioned a major Batman character that's been around longer than the Joker. Robin. Are you kidding me? Robin's been brought up here an awful lot, actually. Anyway, who hasn't been on the big screen since 1997. There's a reason for that. He's as big in the Batman mythos as Alfred or Gordon. He works in comics and animation. Pattinson even said in interviews he'd like to do the Death in the Family arc. Unfortunately, Robert Pattinson has zero input or say as to what story they're going to do. What do you think is the key to crack the code and get Robin back in a Batman movie? All right. Thanks a lot for writing that in, man. I have had many people angry with me for over a decade that I've said, Robin is great. I love Robin. As a matter of fact, one of my old roommates, a buddy of mine, Rodney, who used to do stuff on the movie blog with me and stuff like that, he was a major Robin fan, particularly of Tim. He was a big fan of the Tim iteration of Robin.
I like Tim Drake.
And I like Dick, I like Tim, I like Jason. I mean, I like all the iterations of Robin. I think Robin's great. In the comics and in cartoons. In live action is not the comics or the cartoons. Live action carries more consequences. It's one thing in the comic books or even in a cartoon that Batman has a young 11-year-old child that runs, "Golly, Batman!" and they race into danger together and all that. That's fine. You can do that there. If we see Ben Affleck dragging a 12-year-old child, let's go back to Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. When Ben Affleck goes to rescue Superman's mom and he does the whole warehouse roof assault. One of the favorite scenes in movies in a long time. The brutality of that Batman. But imagine that scene. Batman lands on the roof, starts taking there, and then, "I'm here too, Batman." And here comes a little 12-year-old kid with a stick. Yeah! That Batman is a child abuser. That Batman is an asshole.
Yep.
You can't do it. There is no way to do it. Now, then some people will say to me, Rob, whenever I bring that up, "Well, you're okay with Spider-Man." Okay, let's visit that for a second. 2 things. Spider-Man, depending on when you want to come in here, but he's already well into high school. And listen, you may say it's only 4 years. There's a significant difference between a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old, or a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old, whatever. That's difference number 1. Difference number 2, and this is the more important one. Robin is a 12-year-old child with a stick. Spider-Man is an individual with the powers of the gods. He can lift tanks over his head. He has superhuman speed and agility. You throw him into a room with 20 mobsters, God help the 20 mobsters. don't compare Robin to Spider-Man.
It's true.
Then what people will say to me, well, John, you liked Hit Girl and Kick-Ass because Hit Girl is a spoof, silly comedy that I love, but it is a spoof, silly comedy. Hey, if you want to go back to making Adam West Batman kind of stuff, God bless you, put Robin in it all you want. But if you're going to try to make it at all remotely feel grounded, you cannot do it. So, Rob, I've always said that if you want to crack the code of Robin, you kind of have to do what the 1997 movie did, which is break comic book origin stories and say this Batman is a young adult, or this Robin, I should say, is a young adult that Batman has identified and decided he can train. He's 19, he's 20, he's 21. He's a man. He's not a child with a stick. Now, that will piss off some comic book Puritans, but I'm sorry, there is no way to take the comic accurate origins of Robin, who was, by the way, a response to Bucky Barnes, the child Bucky Barnes character in Captain. Guess what? They adapted the hell out of that. But there's just no way to do a comic history accurate representation of Robin in a live action movie. I just don't see it. You got to compromise on something. Rob, what is the key to cracking the code of Robin?
Well, I think you just said it. You've got to age him up. And the Robert Pattinson character is 2 years into being Batman.
Too young.
It's too young. You can't add, despite his age in real life, you can't, you know, the character of Robin also, Bruce Wayne's ward, also a child of tragedy and all that. And I think that it's a whole different vibe than the kind of Batman stories they're telling now. And I think unless you're going to age him up and make him like a Nightwing character or something like that, it's tough. It's tough to pull off now.
All right. Next up, thanks for writing that in, Zero Pop. Appreciate that, man. Next up, Lord Uttred of Uttred writes, man, that new Halo trailer the other day was metal. Like Beetlejuice watching The Exorcist. Keeps getting better every time I see it. Hey, listen, I'll tell you what, I'm not a big Halo guy. I'm not. But I mean, I couldn't deny that the last trailer they put out was really quite good. And it made me interested, a lot more interested in the show. So Ray and I had a chance to sit down. We watched the first 2 episodes. And I'll tell you what, I like them. I mean, not the greatest TV I've seen all year, but I like it. And I'm really looking forward to episode 3. Rob, what have you been thinking about the marketing for Halo?
Dude, you know what? It's like Halo, Starship Troopers, sci-fi, action, aliens being fought with armor technology. Come on. What's not to love? I'm in. Count me in.
All right. Thanks a lot for writing that in, Lord Uttred. I like that name, by the way. All right. Scott Brown writes, the Ms. Marvel trailer was really bad. There was nothing compelling or interesting. She finds a magical band and has powers now. Basically, no conflict. And why does everything need to take place in New York? It should be the safest place on Earth at this point. I like that part. New York should totally be the safest place on Earth at this point. Well, with respect, Scott, I wholeheartedly disagree with you. I am somebody with, like, my wife Ann has read all the Ms. Marvel stuff. I know she's a big fan. I do not read the Ms. Marvel stuff. I know the facts about Ms. Marvel, but I'm not invested in Ms. Marvel in the least. The trailer completely won me over. I thought it had that John Hughes. I thought it had a better John Hughes 80s vibe than the Spider-Man movie did. I thought it had killer energy to it. I love this girl. I have never met her before, but I love this girl now. I totally love her. I want to see what happens to Kamala. I mean, it was great. As far as, you know, she just got the bands, no conflict. It's a trailer. It's the first trailer. It's not even the meaty trailer, which is usually the second one. It's just the first trailer. Again, why is everything happening in New York? It's got to be the same. I agree with you on that. That's true. But look, it all hits us in different ways. For some people, they watched it, didn't work for them. I respect that. There's a lot of trailers I watched that don't work for me. But I got to tell you, this trailer won me over. So that was me. Rob, what was, you know, you've had a day or two now to reflect on it, but what's your thoughts on the Ms. Marvel trailer?
Look, I feel the same way as you. You know, the conflict is that here's a young Muslim girl who has to live up to her family's expectations. And also, she's also got her head in the clouds, dreaming of super heroines and stuff like Captain Marvel, and then finds herself in possession. It's the great wish fulfillment fantasy of getting these power rings and being imbued with powers. You know, this is a classic tale. John, there was a movie that came out right after Star Wars in the late 70s called Laser Blast.
I don't remember this one.
Laser Blast, it's literally about a kid, like a high school kid, who finds a big honkin' laser weapon and an alien amulet. And he puts the alien amulet on, it starts to transform him, but at first he just blows shit up. And he doesn't, it's awesome. Like, who kid doesn't want this? But he doesn't know that he's being transformed into an alien and there are other aliens looking for him.
Okay.
But there's even a scene in the movie where he uses the alien weapon to blow up a billboard for Star Wars. It's a low budget movie. But, you know, I think any genre fan, any fan of sci-fi, fantasy, horror, superheroes, you dream of being a teenager and getting superpowers. Look at Chronicle. Chronicles, an example.
So good.
I mean, I think a lot of the pushback on this is because it's a girl. You know, as a dude, I'm like an old dude. It's like, but I still can identify a coming of age story that looks fun. It looks fun. Like, I'm sure we'll know what the conflict is later, but I looked at that and I'm like, I was that kid. I was her. When I was 13 years old or however the hell old she is, even in 15, 16, didn't you want to be a superhero?
We all did.
I mean,
Batman was a legitimate career option, man. I keep telling you that as a kid.
And you're not wrong. And I just look at this and I'm like, this is going to be delightful. Thinking how many kids are going to watch this, and it's going to be their entry point into superheroes or whatever. It could be great. I thought it looked delightful.
And listen, I am no longer, it hurts me to say it, I am no longer in the I by automatic default give the MCU the benefit of the doubt anymore.
Me neither.
The Disney Plus stuff has been a mixed bag to me. You know, I love WandaVision. I like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I like Loki. Was there another one besides Hawkeye?
What If, and then Hawkeye.
Yeah, What If we did. I didn't like Hawkeye. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. It definitely had a couple of good episodes. But I'm simply not at the point, like, I've just seen enough now that I go, I can't just give the benefit of the doubt to the MCU Disney Plus shows. And so I will say this, while I really did love the trailer. I don't know that this show is going to be good. I don't have tons of faith that the show will be good. Like, there are sometimes trailers I watch, like a Pixar trailer. I'll watch a Pixar trailer and go, but I have every belief the movie's going to be awesome. I thought the trailer was awesome, but I don't have an automatic belief that the show's going to be good anymore. So we'll see.
I'm right there with you. I mean, this movie might lose me. It might not be for me as an older dude, as a guy that's not in high school anymore. Because, John, last time I looked, I'm not in high school anymore.
Yeah, but Turning Red. I mean, if your show or movie has a universal experience,
that's what classical storytelling is.
Yes,
I think that's why when I watch this trailer, like with you, we can watch this trailer and go, if this is a well-told story, I like this story.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going on here. Next up, we got Judd Apatow fan writes, "Hey, John or Rob, or both. It's both of us today. Happy Friday. About This Is 50. I liked the 40 version, but it was too long." I agree with that. It was too long.
I do too. It was really long.
So if Judd Apatow, you know what the thing, speaking about Judd Apatow, just a quick sidebar. This Is 40. What was the Adam Sandler one with Seth Rogen? Funny People?
Funny People, yep.
Too long.
Way too long. And I like that too, but it was too long. It's funny that you say that because I interchange those movies in my head.
Oh, really?
Because they deal with some of the same stuff.
Some similar themes, right. But anyway, but that has become a Judd Apatow thing, is maybe a little bit too long. Anyway, getting back to the questions, but a little too long. So if Judd Apatow tightens it out and maybe cut the fat, I think it could be really good. I mean, listen, whenever you got Paul Rudd and Leslie Bibb, you got the potential to be good. What's your favorite Apatow movie? Oh, that's the easiest question I've ever been asked. Mine is 40-Year-Old Virgin, one of two. I also want to thank you for being a great beacon in the community. You guys inspired me to make my own YouTube channel, and I've been loving it. Thanks again for the content. Bring on the filthy. Oh, thanks so much, Judd Apatow fan, and I'm glad you're doing your own YouTube channel. I encourage all film fans to make their own blog, podcast, or YouTube channel, because it gives you a way to give back to the fan community, and it's a great way for you to engage with the object of your fandom. Absolutely do it. I'm glad you're doing it. All right. Easiest question I've ever been asked. My favorite Judd Apatow movie is my all-time favorite comedy, The 40-Year-Old Virgin. To this day, I don't think there's, because when I say overall comedy, I don't know that The 40-Year-Old Virgin, it is certainly one of the funniest I've ever seen, but I'm not certain I'm saying it is the funniest movie I've ever seen. But it is the combination of hilariously funny and it on its own is a legitimate, wonderful story. You know what I mean?
I'm with you 100%. Not only that, it has great secondary characters.
Awesome secondary
Catherine
characters.
Keener is great in it.
That was my real discovery of her. It was like, it was a revelation.
I only have one criticism of it. The action figures that he collects are not as authentic as they could be. Because I'm sure that, you have to clear those action figures. You can't just have a bunch of Hot Toys figures on a shelf. You have to clear those, especially with likenesses and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So they did what they could. I mean, I just look at it and go, he would have had better action figures than he has in this movie. But it's fine. That's such a minor nitpick, but that's my favorite. That movie's a delightful movie.
And one of the funniest scenes to me in cinema history, the waxing scene. It was ad-libbed. They even left it with the guys breaking character. They left it. Judd Apatow made the decision to leave it in the movie as the guys were breaking character and just cracking up. It is honestly, it is one of the funniest scenes ever in movie history to me. I love that. And look at all the cast, right? Seth Rogen. At that point, Seth Rogen was not a household name.
No.
Paul Rudd was a recognized face, but not a household name.
Nope.
DeMoney, I forget DeMoney's last name, but he hasn't had as big as a career of the other guys. But whenever I see him pop up in things, I really like him. He was in Last Vegas, one of my favorite Vegas movies.
Was Aziz Ansari in it too?
I don't think Aziz was in it. No.
Who am I thinking of?
But it also had the girl from Glee, the coach, the evil girl from Glee.
Yeah.
What's her name again?
Oh, man.
But she went on to do that. Basically, almost everybody in this movie.
Jane Lynch.
Jane Lynch, thank you. Jane Lynch was in there.
And Jane Lynch, who's trying to get into his, so I hear you have a problem.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I love her performance.
Oh, I'd do him.
Yeah, that's so funny.
And Jonah, I believe everybody's first introduction to Jonah Hill was even in that. He's the Goldfish Boots guy.
Right.
In the We Sell Your Stuff on eBay store. Yeah, I just want to buy these boots, and you're making it hard for me to do that. I mean, everybody in that movie went on to great things. 40-Year-Old Virgin. That is either my all-time favorite comedy, or it is tied for my all-time favorite comedy with the Michael Caine, John Ritter, Christopher Reeve.
Noises Off.
Carol Burnett, Noises Off. Those are my two favorite comedies of all time. I think 40-Year-Old Virgin is right at the top, though. All right. Great question, man. Thanks for writing that in. All right. Marie Seifring writes, Doctor Strange 2 and Ant-Man 3 are using the volume tech first used in The Mandalorian to give actors more than a blank screen, green screen to react to. It will be interesting to see how its use on the big screen affects actors' performances and visual effects. And by the way, Marie sends in like a $20 super chat or a tip for that. Thank you, Marie. Appreciate that very much. Here's what I would say to that. I don't think the point of the volume is to get better performances out of the actors. Because if you're a good actor, you can be in a blackened out closet and you can play your role.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps. It helps. I really think more it's about all the advantages from a technical point of view and post-production and what you can do in that environment. I think there's just a lot of advantages. That's the main reason. So I honestly don't think we're going to see a lot of differences in the performances because these are professional performers and actors. They don't need to have that. What I am interested in though, Rob, is how much they use it. Because like in Mandalorian, while we were all blown away by the volume, by the time you get into Boba Fett, you feel the use of the volume.
Yeah,
like they use it so much.
It's totally very apparent.
And I just hope that they use it for when it would be helpful, not let's use it for the sake of using it.
Right. And look, it should be seamless. And sometimes it's not. The color, you can tell that they're not really outside, and it's a tough one. But look, for me, the great thing about the volume is it cuts down on the budget in terms of like sets, the backgrounds. You don't have to have a full set anymore. You can do things, and if it's used judiciously, the same way miniatures and CG like can be combined and utilized in a very effective way, it's really going to be interesting to see how it's used. Same with Obi-Wan,
because time is money. And that's the thing about the volume. It saves so much time. Obviously, a kingdom's expense to make and build, but once you've got it, it can save you so much time. Even just the simple like camera tracking. Oh my God. I remember having to do some camera tracking. I hate camera tracking.
Right, I know.
It's the worst.
Well, and the fact that, you know, it works with the parallax and all that, it's amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. Anyway, great question, Marie. Thanks for sending that in. All right. Next up, we've got, there's Judd Apatow part 2. I didn't even see it. Part 2. I also want to thank you and your community because you made that. That's right. We did read that part. Well, you're welcome, Judd. Thanks for writing that in, dude. All right. The Fast and the Curious. That's a good username. Writes in, hey, John, the classic Western Unforgiven turns 30 this year. I think it's Eastwood's best directed film. I agree. I'm really hoping you guys do a movie club episode on it. I can 100% guarantee you that at some point, maybe sooner rather than later, we will be doing the Unforgiven in movie club.
And it's coming up. It'd be this summer. This summer is when its 40th anniversary.
To me, it is the greatest Western of all time. It's just simply the greatest Western of all time.
And by the way, beginning in May and June, we have some incredible movie 40-year-old 40th anniversaries coming up. Conan the Barbarian, Star Trek II, Poltergeist, the E.T., The Thing, Blade Runner, Tron, they all came out within 2 months of each other.
They all came out in 82.
And all came out from May to July.
Is that the one our friend Scott is making a documentary of?
Yes, sir.
Those of you who don't know, we're going to give him a free little plug here. Our buddy, Scott Mance, who's been on the show, you guys know Scott, he's working on a documentary project about the movies of 1982 that he believes is the greatest movie year of all time. So that'll be interesting to see once he gets, if he's able to finish that. All right. Next up, Chaplin's Girl writes, hey, John and Rob, just learned that a new Riddler comic book, Riddler Year One, is coming this October and that Paul Dano wrote it. Oh, that's interesting. That's
cool.
Really interesting. I'm excited and intrigued by this. Who better to tell Year One than the man who played the character? I don't know. The person who wrote the character might be a better choice. An actual experienced comic book writer might be a better choice. I mean, this is the thing that movie fans often forget. The actors did not write the character. I mean, obviously, they're also very responsible for bringing what kind of life there is. I'm not underplaying the role, but who would be better to write this comic? I don't know. The guy who wrote the character may be better. But hey, listen, I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you I'm super intrigued by this.
Me too. But I have to tell you, to bring up actors writing things, Andrew Robinson, who is the killer in Dirty Harry. He also played Garrick on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He wrote a Star Trek novel called A Stitch in Time.
I didn't know this.
It's as far as Star Trek novels go, it's one of the very best. And he wrote it.
Like Garrick, like the Cardassian Garrick?
Yeah.
Oh.
That Andrew Robinson, the Cardassian Garrick.
Very cool.
He wrote, and because he was a tailor, so it's called A Stitch in Time. You know, his character, he was a tailor. Right. That was his cover, being an intelligence officer or whatever.
But he was the deep undercover.
Yeah. But the book's really, really good.
All right. Next up, we got V writes, hey guys, big fan of the show. Thank you so much. Have you guys seen Narcos? Absolutely. To me, Diego Luna played a modern day Michael Corleone. I mean, yeah, there's some universal great storytelling. Of course, Narcos is based sometimes loosely on real world events. Narcos was great.
Loved it.
I mean, I particularly liked season one. To me, season one was the best season.
It was totally the best season.
It stayed strong. Don't get me wrong. It never got weak, but to me, the season one was the best. What's your impressions of the show?
I agree. I loved Narcos. I mean, it's kind of in a way, Narcos was different, but same with The Sopranos. I thought the season one of The Sopranos was by far the best. It was still a great show. But that season one of Narcos, because they don't know if shows are going to be a hit, John. So they put all this great stuff to try and make the first season the best it can be. And then if it hits, then they do another one and another one. So usually on these shows like this, the first season is the best, but that's because they don't know if they're going to go further than season 1.
Now, I'm forgetting the name of the guy who starred in it. It obviously, you had Pedro Pascal, but what was his partner's name?
God.
He was then in Logan. He was one of the bad guys in Logan.
Yeah.
And I'm freezing on his name.
I see his face.
Yeah, I'm totally looking at his face in my head. I can't remember now.
Like,
oh, well, you guys at home can look that up. All right, next up. Orange Hand writes, there's an old joke that Batman leaves his lower face exposed so the cops know he's white. But it's interesting that no new iteration ever covers up his mouth. Do the designers keep the cowl with the same because of how iconic that look is, or for some other reason? Oh, it's because it's the iconic look.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's no getting like that. That's the Batman look.
Yeah, you gotta I mean, some things you just can't change. I mean, Batman's had different cowls to you in terms of utilitarian things, but come on, that's Batman.
It's Batman.
It's Batman.
All right. Thanks, Orange Hand. Next up, Cryo writes, I've got a theory where Kamala's bracelet and maybe the 10 rings come from. What if they're from at the Inhumans' home, Atalan? What if they're from Atalan, and the reason they can't locate them is because Atalan is still hidden on Earth? This could set up how Kamala is an Inhuman like in the comics. It's not a bad theory.
Nope.
My one reason why I wouldn't buy it, and I don't know that this is right, could be totally wrong, but the one reason why I wouldn't buy it is because I don't think Kevin Feige wants to touch Inhumans with a 100-foot pole.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Not since Ike Perlmutter kind of bastardized what it was, his plans were, and what he wanted to do with it. I don't know that he wants to go anywhere. And then they were kind of run into the ground a little bit in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I just don't know that he wants. He might, but I don't know.
Although, it would not surprise me to see Black Bolt as part of the Illuminati in Doctor Strange.
They could do it, and I would love it if it was Anson.
Mount.
Anson Mount.
And they don't have to say anything. Well, he doesn't have to say anything clearly.
Yeah.
But they don't have to tell you. He's just there in the background or in the foreground, as it were, because he doesn't say anything anyway. So if he's just there.
All right. And we now get to the final question today, guys. This comes to us from our friend H Squared, who writes, this is a response to your take on the Netflix and password sharers. The simultaneous stream limit already prevents people from abusing the system. Due to this, it comes across as them double dipping. Pick one, not both, or I'll reduce my sub to the lowest. All due respect, my film loving brother. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. It is their service. The very fact that Netflix provides you with the accommodation of saying, hey, you got a membership for you and your house. So understanding that, you can watch it on more than one device, and your family members in your house can have multiple, you can have your own accounts. That's an accommodation they're making. That's a gift. To then say, no, that also has to mean I should be able to give it to anybody else I want outside of the house, which is not what the intention of that was at all. Rob, you've heard the saying, give somebody an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yes.
Nobody does that worse than movie fans. And we're all guilty of it.
Or not just movie fans, music fans.
Yeah.
Books, comics.
So Netflix makes this accommodation and says, okay, for your household, you can do this. But it is not them trying to double dip. It is explicitly in the terms of service. And 100% that Netflix is saying, you know what, we're going to give you the accommodation that you can share this within the house and you can have multiple people watching in different rooms. It is not the same thing as saying, hey, we want you to know that with your account, up to 4 people can use it anywhere, anytime. That is not what they're saying. That has never been the intent. And again, it's just a semantic way of trying to justify I should be able to get it for free. That, hey, I use my buddy's Netflix password. How dare Netflix actually want me to pay for their service that I'm using? How outrageous. So, I mean, no, this isn't some new thing. One of the things we've been trying to, Rob, really emphasize in this, in all the times that we've been talking about this, is the fact that these have always been the rules. It's just that Netflix has been, what's the point of trying to fight it? We don't have the technology right now to try to fight it, but these are the rules. Now they have the tools to enforce them, and some people get upset because now they have the tools to enforce it.
John,
but again, let's be clear, Rob. The only thing Netflix is actually doing here is saying, if you use our service, you need to pay for our service. And if you have the service, you can share it within the house. But you can't be giving it out for free. You can't give our service out to people for free who otherwise would need to be paying subscribers, because we are losing literally billions of dollars a year to that practice. And guess what? Netflix isn't going to be the only streamer that does this. You are going to see Disney has been investing a lot of money into coming up with ways to lock this down. They're going to do it. HBO Max is going to do it, and they have every right to.
Well, look, we lived in a world where it goes all the way back 30 years when people were swapping software. Here, borrow my software that took millions to develop, talent to develop. Then it was music. Music was the first thing because you could record music and trade it. So people were losing that. So all of these things in our file-based world, everything of value that takes so much to develop and make. John, movies, look, your movie trailers, my movie, Tango Shalom, these have now been reduced to files where people can just share them. Every time somebody shares one of our files, we lose money. It comes right out of our pockets. Now, the fruits of our labor are being enjoyed by people for free. I'm not trying to be accusatory. It's just a fact. I've done it throughout my life as well. Enjoyed other people's movies. It's not right. And our culture built up this idea that it's okay to steal these things because after all, they're just files, aren't they? They're just digital bits you share. But people had to make them, and I'll tell you something, for independent filmmakers, that kind of thinking has undercut our ability to get movies made.
It's been a death sentence for a lot of independent filmmakers.
An absolute death sentence.
Now, then some people might say, yeah, but this is Netflix. They're a big company. That doesn't make it okay.
But they've got think about it, tens of thousands of people have made all the stuff that Netflix has to pay all those people to make the content.
Well, that's why for up until very, very recently, every year they've operated at a loss, where many years they could have been profitable. But again, need to emphasize, this is not a new rule. This is actually an accommodation that they're making, saying, hey, tell you what, instead of your buddy who lives on campus having to pay $15 for their own, we'll tell you what, we'll compromise with you.
$36 a year.
$3, $36 a year. Come on. And we're going to complain? I mean, again, Netflix at $15 a month, at 50 cents a day, the amount of content you get on Netflix is insane. And that's why people again, and I include myself in this, we want everything for free. We think everything should be $5. But they're literally giving you this amazingly huge entertainment platform that is worth far more for 50 cents a day, whereas you probably spend a good 60 hours sitting in front of it.
And they keep putting stuff on there almost every day.
And they're adding new stuff all the time, some good, some bad, but it is what it is. And if you don't like the service, unsubscribe from it. But asking for $3, I don't think this is unreasonable. I just don't. But that's just me. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for this installment of Mailbag. Thank you so much for being here and making this show a part of your evening. Guys, big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did. And just a reminder, if you want to get in a comment or question for Mailbag, simply use the tip link that's down in the description of this video or enter it in manually at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. Once again, we reserve the right not to use a comment or question you send in if we don't believe that it's appropriate to be used on the show. But otherwise, thank you to everybody who supported the show that way. I want to thank Robert Meyer Burnett for being here. Robert, where can people follow you online?
John, you can find me on Instagram at RM Burnett. Find me on Twitter at Burnett RM or on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work.
And of course, you guys can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter, simply at John Campea. By the way, I haven't thanked people. Thank you guys for helping pushing me over 100,000 followers on Twitter. Thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. And that's where you guys can find me, simply at John Campea. All right, guys. That'll do it for us for now. Have a terrific weekend. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.